Today's episode features Van Eure, owner of the renowned Angus Barn in Raleigh, North Carolina. Famous for its steaks, award-winning wines, festive decor, and Southern hospitality, the Angus Barn is a local icon. Van discusses her background, career shift into the restaurant industry, and leadership at this celebrated establishment. As a mental health advocate, she'll also share insights on breaking stigma and highlight her family foundation's work in supporting the community. Get ready for an inspiring story.
Hello, my name is Van Eure, and I'm with the Angus Barn restaurant, and I'm so happy to be here with NC Positive. Well, my upbringing was not very normal because my parents they opened the Angus Barn when we were very young. And so, we came to work with them all the time. They really, at the time when they opened the restaurant, they couldn't afford babysitters. They were just starting out, they had nothing. And this place was a real challenge anyway because it was so far out in the country and no one believed it was going to even work as a restaurant. But anyway, we came with them to work all the time. So, I kind of thought, well, all kids worked, went to work, really young. But my father, he and his partner, Charles Winston, they each had 3 kids. They really brought us all up working out here all the time. And when I say working, I don't mean we were doing like the great jobs. We were like they had this thing where our kids are going to know what hard work means. So we were like scrubbing and cleaning and cleaning bathrooms and cleaning equipment and doing the yard work. And we were working. So I was just brought up thinking that that was the way it was. So. And, my father he was, of course, now I think he's the most wonderful person in the world, but he was a very tough dad. He was tough on us. He wanted us to understand making our own money, kind of the way I really think kids should be taught a little bit more of these days. But he was a tough dad. Because of how he raised me is why I sort of felt like there was nothing that I really couldn't do, whether I was on my own or no matter where. I mean, for example, when I got my driver's license, he said, "Oh no, you have not passed the driver's test, or you have to take your driver's test, my test." And he said we had to learn how to change a tire on a highway by ourselves, siphon gas, which no one even knows what that is anymore, but that's when you get gas from one car and put it in your car, like by sucking it through a hose, without getting the gas in your mouth, and learning how to drive a stick shift. So so we had to learn those 3 things before we got our driver's license. So I was like a year and a half behind when I could get my driver's license. And so here we are. This funny story. We're out on highway, this highway, Glenwood Avenue, and he's having me change the tire, and the cars are going by, and they're yelling at him, like he's standing there, like, and just watching me, and I'm this 17-year-old, like, doing the jack, and like, but this is before no AAA, none of that. So then years later, I'm on a trip with some friends, and literally we had a flat tire, and I was the only one in the whole group with all the guys and everything who knew how to change the tire. So it was crazy, so then he was just tough. And like, for another example is he was not ever going to buy us our own car. We had to you will work, you will make your own money, you will buy your own first car, and you'll anything really that you want, you're going to pay for yourself. So that was sort of how I was raised like that, which I'm really happy for now.
Tell us about your journey in education.
I went to UNC for college and got my degree in elementary education. And so right when I graduated from UNC was when I had signed up for this program called Knowles, which stands for National Outdoor Leadership School. You actually can get college credits towards a master by going on this program, but I wasn't really doing it for that. I went for the experience, and it was a mountain climb program in Kenya, Africa. They actually, the program, it was a 3-month program. They taught you everything. You learned the language, the history, the as you were doing all the mountain climb and all that kind of stuff. They really taught you everything. You had to be in a certain shape to go to this program. I had swam competitively for UNC, so I was in pretty good shape. And but you had to be able to run a mile in a certain amount of time. You had to be able to climb. You had to be able to, do X amount of push-ups, and because they weren't going to just take someone that was going to, not be able to make it. So I went on this program. There were 11 people that went. We climbed to the top of Mount Kenya. Believe it or not, the equator runs right through Kenya. So Kenya is right in the middle of Africa, but it's on the east coast. So you would think it's hot. Halfway up the mountain of Mount Kenya is the coldest I have ever been in my entire life. I thought my toes were going to literally break off. I thought, I'm not going to have toes. I'm going to have to learn to walk without toes. But we were on the real deal mountain climb. We carried everything on our back. We set up our own tents and camp at night. We cooked all of our own food. So it was the real thing. And we did the rope work at the top and everything. Then after that, we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. So it was a very intense program. So that was really more education than I got in any, school, because you're really learning, what it takes to make it. But it was incredible. I mean, I was so thrilled to be there. I was happy as I could be, loved it. Everybody went to the airport to come back home, and people were going to all different countries, and, we had become really good friends. And I get to the airport, and I say, guys, I'm not getting on the plane. And they're like, ha ha, Van, what you're funny. What are you going to do? And no, I'm really not getting on the plane. This country needs teachers, and I'm going to stay and teach. And they're like, well, what are you going to do for money? I said, well, I knew I couldn't call my father for money. Or first of all, you can't call. But I wasn't going to, ask for money from him, because that was no, you don't do that in my family. A job was not hard to find because teachers were desperately needed in that country. So I did not have a hard time finding a job. I love helping people just become better people, just in general. And I had a couple of great teachers in my life, a couple of horrible teachers in my life, and I realized that just 1 year with a great teacher can influence you in so many ways and sort of turn you into the kind of person that wants to give back to the community and wants to, do the right things. And I realized that, what a great gift to be able to give to society, to be able to teach. Of course, teaching in Kenya was, oh my goodness, they craved education because it wasn't free to everybody. Education, not every child got education. So, it was so appreciated. To be a teacher in a third world country, you are treated like you are some kind of surgeon, high-end surgeon. You are respected beyond belief, because teachers are what they need more than anything. So in Kenya, it would be the word for a teacher is mwazimu. And so if they knew that if I was going to a little store to buy something or whatever, and they said, oh, mwalimu, and everyone would step back and let me go to the front of the line. It was just so much respect for teachers in that country.
Why did you return to work at the Angus Barn?
So I had worked here all my life, really, from a child. And then when I got old enough, I was a server and bartender, and did all the jobs, but never really in management. But working here really all my life, even through college, and we had never really gotten along great. My dad and I, we had sort of butted heads all my whole childhood because he was very tough. I was very stubborn. I was not. I was going to be like obstinate and do what I wanted. I'm right. You're not right. I was that child. I was the one that you would not want your children to play with because I would be getting them in trouble always. So I was that one. But then when I came home from Africa after I was there for 5 years, and I didn't have anything, I had no job, no nothing. So I said, okay, I'm just going to work at the Angus Barn for a little while until I get myself situated. And then as I was watching my dad, I thought, wow, I really love watching him manage people. He's an incredible manager. He's an incredible, the way he leads these people and the way that he treats the guest and his whole philosophy of hospitality. I was fascinated because I had never really paid attention to him before because I never thought, he was, I never paid, I wasn't a great child. Let me just put it that way. I was not the one that was like, yes, whatever you say, Dad. So, and then he was looking at me like, well, she's kind of a nice person, like because we were both sort of getting to know each other, and then, so I decided well, let me work out here for a little while, and then I said to him, I think I really want to see what the possibility would be of me actually becoming a generational thing and me, really running this place one day. So he and I designed this. We said, well, we're going to go through every single department of the restaurant. I was going to work in every department and, really, really delve into it and learn it backwards and forwards, everything from cleaning the toilets to dishwashing to salads and desserts to grill cook to everything. And then, sort of fine-tune all the different departments with him. So he and I set up this program that I did just because I was thinking, well, I may want to do this. Because I had never really thought I was going to want to be involved with the family business before. And when I came back and started working with him, that was when I thought, wow, this... And it also fulfilled that thing in me that loved to teach, because you have 500 employees here. You are teaching them every day. You are training, you are teaching, you're training and you're how to hire, how to treat people, how to treat guests, how to treat each other. That is so big here. And so it really fulfilled the teaching side of me too. So it was kind of a surprise that I jumped from education to all of a sudden now thinking that I wanted to take it, come into the family business. But I did. And it was sort of such a blessing, because when I got back from Kenya, I really only had 3 years with my dad before he passed away. And those were the only 3 years that we really had together, that we actually got along and really enjoyed each other's company. And so I'm so grateful for those 3 years, because he died very young. He died at 56. And so, it was a shock, when he got sick. And so when he got sick, I was naturally the one that was here and was sort of ready to try, although, I did not know really what I was doing as far as running a business. I had done all the jobs in the restaurant, but as far as running a business, no, that was foreign to me. But I just, I said, I'm going to listen to every single employee who's been here for years. I'm going to take in everything that they say. I'm going to ask them, what would Dad do? What do you think? How do you think he would handle this? and I'm going to listen to the customers and what they want. And I just feel like if you're a great listener, you can be a great leader. I sort of learned everything by figuring it out, on my own, not any real professional business training. I did know the basics. I did know that if you really take care of your employees and you make them very happy and you teach them how to really take care of the guest, that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line of any successful business. Take care of your people and take care of your guest. And if you make a mistake, make it right. And go overboard making it right. And if you're wrong, admit you're wrong. Say, I'm sorry. And, all of those things that are so basic, but simple is hard,
How do you maintain an effective balance between your professional responsibilities and your personal life?
A doctor had to tell me, Van, if you don't start taking care of yourself, you're not going to be okay to run this restaurant. And so, really, that was, when I realized, I have to figure out something. They said, whatever, he said, whatever it is, if it's playing piano, if it's like, whatever it is, you have to have other interests that are completely opposite from the business so that your mind can get a break. And so I'm a big advocate of all of my managers and employees taking their days off and having family time, and your family comes first. And if your children are involved in, let's say, a sport, you should be there. So I'm a big advocate of that. I want them to be doing other things for themselves and with their life, because then they can come in here and be much better at their job. And so that's kind of a unusual way that a lot of restaurant owners don't look at things. A lot of restaurant owners expect their people to be 7 days a week and 12-hour days, but I want you to take your time off. I used to think that I didn't have to sleep at all, that I could stay up all night long and then I would be very productive, get stuff done all night long, and then just keep going the next day, take a nap every now and then, but I don't look at my phone for the first hour when I get up. I read about this about a year and a half ago, and I started doing it. So for the first hour, I just my phone is like away, and I go, do some stretching, and then I go sit in this massage chair that's really good for my back, and it's really, it's like a kind of therapeutic massage chair. And I sit with this light, and it's called a happy light. And you can buy these. They're online. They use them in countries that, like where the sun doesn't shine all the time. It's for depression, but it gives you that in 20 minutes of sitting in front of this light. Gives your brain the same feeling as if you've been had a glorious day of sun. So I know I have to have that light, and so I sit there and do my meditation with the light, shining on me. Like in countries like Sweden and Alaska, where the suicide rates are high because people are in darkness a lot. This is a very, very popular thing. But I own one, and I promote this to anybody that, feels like whenever the weather starts getting bad and the sun isn't out as much, and you start to feel your spirits kind of going down, this is a way to correct that. So I'll sit in front of that, and I'll do my meditation counting, breathing in, like in for 3, out for 4, in for 4, out for 5, in for 5, out for 6, So I'll do that for like about 20 minutes. And then I will go outside and feed my horses. I have horses that are rescue horses, so they all need different treatments. They all need different types of care. So I'll do that with them, and then I'll come inside, and then I'll pick up my phone, and then I'll see, okay, these are my emails, these are my texts, what I have to do, and I'll sort of make my list, and I'll start, working from home before I come in here to get a lot of the phone calls and emails that I have to do, and reservations and anything that it can be anything. When I do that, my day is great. When I don't do that, my day can be a little bit messed up. When I come home from work at night, the way that I've learned to put myself to sleep, I started playing piano. Well, I played when I was young, but never. I can read music, but never really, took it as an adult. So I started playing piano again, and so I play piano for like 15 minutes when I get home from work at night. So that takes my brain completely away from the restaurant and what I've been doing. If there's a great series or something I'm watching, I might watch one episode of that, and then the whole time I'm convincing myself, sleep is good, sleep is good, sleep is good.
How did you meet your husband?
It's a crazy story. His wife, his ex-wife, and it wasn't because of me that they're not together at all, but she had a bad experience out here with a group of businessmen, and I went to the table and I said, I am so sorry, we have completely messed up your dinners here. We are not charging you for your meals tonight. And then I got all their addresses, and then I wrote them all apology letters and sent them all a gift. Well, so she gets this gift in the mail, and she says to Steve, oh my God, you can't believe this. Our meal was wrong, but they went so far overboard to make everything right. So he was thinking, I really want to meet that lady that, runs her business like that. So then years later, they weren't together, and then he had a chance to meet me, and he was like, I have always wanted to meet the person that handled the situation with my ex-wife this way. And he reminded me of the situation, and I really didn't even remember it. Maybe a week later, he called me to ask me out, and I said no, not interested, because I was like married to this business. And so he called me like about 5 times, and finally I said, I'll meet you at the movies. And so as I was walking up to the theater and he was standing there, I said, oh my goodness, I think that's the person I'm going to marry. I said, oh my gosh, I think he's the one. And I had not got married because when my father died and I threw myself into the business, I was married to the Angus Barn. His son was 3 when we got married, and he took vows with us. I like to tell everybody that I really married Steve for Christopher because he was so adorable. Christopher likes to say that's the reason she married my dad. I got married when I was 42. Now I'm 44. And all of a sudden, I'm like, something is wrong with me. I'm not feeling right. And I go to a doctor, and he says, oh, you need to sit down. Okay, Van, don't faint, but you're 3 months pregnant. And I was 44. So I was in complete shock, and I had just lost my mother. My mother had died by this time, and I cried, and oh my God, how am I going to handle this? And, I'm 44, this is not right, I can't do it. And then all of a sudden I realized, no, this is a gift from God. And so I named her after my mother. Christopher was 5 when she was born. So 2 children.
Do your children continue the legacy of working at the Angus Barn?
Yes, they both are. I said, are you sick? Are you well? You want to work? You want to be in this business? Because I made them work here since they were little. Also, like my parents made me. We're really busy this weekend. You're working. So of course I did let them be involved in sports and all kinds of other things too. But I did make them work, and they both love it. They love it, and so I'm like, you both grew up with 2 parents that you saw just well, no matter what time of day it is, if something happens at the restaurant, you're still involved. 24/7. If something happens, it's still your responsibility. So, you watch this your whole life, and you still really want to do this? And like, yes, we really want to do this. So they both work out here.
What is the secret to the Angus Barn's success?
I believe it's all in who you hire. You don't have to hire people who know how to do the job. You have to hire people who have a servant's heart. They have to care enough about whatever they do in life that they want to do it so perfectly and so right, and that they want to learn, they want to make people happy, and they have a desire to serve. And when you serve something like what we serve here as beyond food, we serve memories, because when you come to a dinner here, it's more than just the meal. It's the time that you have with your family over the special occasion, and it's a memory, and that's something money can't buy. That's a gift. When you hire people that understand that, and we don't look for people that have the skill, that are great chefs or great this or great this. We look for people that have that thing inside them. It's this intangible thing that says, I really care. I really care about what I do. I really care about putting my whole heart into, making people happy. And so you hire these great people, you train them, you treat them great. We treat our employees as if they are our customers. Our employees are our customers also. Their needs are just as important to me as the customer's needs. So it's sort of a opposite way of thinking about people, but we also empower our employees to make decisions. If they feel like things are wrong, they can do whatever they need to make it right. And so we give them that empowerment, so that makes them feel like they really have ownership in the place. And so once you have a team of people that all are thinking that way, then it does become magic, because then everybody's main goal is this guest experience, and everyone realizes that it's much more, it's much beyond the meal. It's how they're made to feel while they're here. And really, when you think about it, when you go into any business or any place in your whole life, it can be the nicest spa, let's say the nicest spa in the country, but if you're not treated right there, if someone has an attitude or doesn't treat you right, you're going to remember that, and you're not going to have a great time. But if you're treated great, even at a gas station, you're going to remember that gas station forever. So it's all about how you're treated. And I don't think that the team here can treat customers right unless they are treated great. So you treat them great so that they can treat the guest great. So that's my philosophy.
What distinguishes Angus Barn's cuisine from other restaurants?
We age our own beef. And when you age your beef, that is where you really get the tenderness and the quality of the beef, is through the aging process. And when you buy beef, when you just go and buy beef and cook it, it has not been aged. And the aging process is where the enzymes inside the meat break down the tendons and any kind of tough parts of the meat. So we realized this, that we needed to age our beef, because we realized that the best beef was beef that was aged. Well, first of all, we get our beef from Kansas and Nebraska, which is the best place for Black Angus beef. We make sure that they are killed in a humane way, the Temple Grandin method, because we insist on them being raised humanely and killed humanely. We insist on that. I even flew out there to observe the process. And so then the beef comes straight to us in huge trucks. We unload it ourselves. We take it to our aging room, where it ages for 3 weeks. And then we have our own butchers that cut it. And so each piece of meat has been through so much before it goes on that person's plate. And there's only one other restaurant in the country that ages their own beef. That's Burn's restaurant in Tampa, Florida.
What's the story behind the renowned crackers of Angus Barn?
Well, the crackers happened by accident. We were making for my father also had the Daryl's restaurant chain, and they were making pizzas, and this pizza crust didn't turn out one time, and it was just flat, and it just looked awful. And he said, "Wait a minute, don't throw that away." And he kind of broke it up, and he said, "Taste this." And so they realized, oh, this is good. It's crackers. So they started making crackers, like how you make pizza dough, except really just flat, crackers. So we started making crackers that way from a mistake, and they became like a huge thing. Like one year we had to limit how many crackers people could buy at Christmas, which I hated that. I hated limiting. So now we have another place. It's called the Cracker Shack, where we make crackers nonstop. And the crackers, when they're packaged right, they have a shelf life of 3 months. So we can make them ahead of time to be prepared for the amount that we're going to sell at Christmas. Because some people will come in and buy 20 boxes at one time. And I don't want to put limits on anybody. So, but now we have a Cracker Shack. Now we're in better control of that situation. But sometimes the greatest things start from mistakes.
How did the Angus Barn's tradition of Christmas decorating begin?
My parents only ever just had one tree in the lobby. That was it, a tree. And then my sister, when we lost my dad, we went on a trip. We didn't want to spend Christmas at home. We were sad about Christmas, and we didn't want to spend Christmas at home, so we went on a trip to the Greenbrier. And we're walking through, and my sister Shelley, she says to me, "Van, look at this place. Every room is decorated beautifully, every single room. Now, if they can do it, why can't the Angus Barn do this?" And I'm like, oh, God, she's right. Darn it, she's right. And so then I started thinking, okay, how can we decorate each room? So it started slowly, and then I was having my employees come in and help me. And oh my God, they were like, they worked the night before, like, really, Van, you need us in the morning? Oh my goodness. So they'd come in the morning and help me. And then all of a sudden I had some friends that said, we want to help. And then they had some friends that said, we want to help. So now we have a decorating crew of 50 women and 6 men. Every year we start October, like the first week of October, and we're finished by the second week of November. And we just go room to room to room. When we take it down, we have a whole system of taking it down. We have a whole system of putting it up. We have a whole way that we put the lights. Every single one of these lights are put on by hand. The garland doesn't come like that. And they have to come off and be rolled up a certain way so that they don't get tangled. So it's a real process.
How is the Angus Barn creating and supporting health initiatives?
We have a foundation for mental illness research because my brother, when he was around 16, 17, he became very, very sick with bipolar and schizophrenia. And back then, no one knew anything about that. So my father and mother finally realized we can't make our own son well. So we have to do something. So they started a foundation called the Foundation of Hope for mental illness research, because everywhere they went in the whole country, they said, what we need more than anything is research into what causes these things to happen in our brains. 1 in 4 people suffer very badly with some form of a mental issue, whether it's severe chronic depression, postpartum, PTSD, bipolar, anorexia, alcoholism, autism. I mean, there's just, it engulfs so many things. And so this is, it is not something that you can control. This is something that happens in your body. It's as if you had something go wrong with your heart and you needed to take heart medication for your heart in order for you to be okay. Or if you're diabetic and you have to take insulin to be okay. Well, if something goes wrong in your brain, you may have to take medication to be okay. Well, that's okay. You're taking care of what you need to take care of. So to be able to talk about it and to say, hey, I suffer with this, I deal with this, or my child is dealing with this, it needs to be really okay, because it's the same thing as if you're saying, my child has MS but MS you can see. And you can see, oh, that must hurt, that must be bad, let me help that person. You can't see a mental illness. So you think, oh, that person's fine, and this is just a crazy thought that they're having. And no, they're really experiencing something that's gone awry with the chemicals that affect the brain. A lot of times they can't help it, and sometimes it happens at adolescence. It happens, that's why we need research. That's why we have our foundation, and we're doing what we're doing to try to figure out cures and what causes this, and how to end certain diseases or illnesses. But another reason for the foundation is we want people to be able to talk about it. We want it to become a topic that's okay to talk about. Yeah, my brother suffers with this. My daughter has this, or I'll openly admit that in a family where one child, like my brother, was the child that was very, very sick, bipolar and schizophrenia. Well, I also have a touch of an ability to go into a depression. That's why I always have to be, really aware of my mental state and how I'm taking care of myself. And, it can happen to all of us. And so it's okay. It's okay to say, I take medication so that I don't go into a severe depression, or I see a therapist, or, whatever. It's just like, okay, I see a doctor for my heart. It's just like saying that. I see a doctor for my foot. I see a doctor for my lungs, whatever. It's the same thing. So that's what we want people to realize. And especially now, since COVID, and since with social media and what's the youth of this country are having to deal with, there's a very chronic need for people to become much more understanding of what the young people are having to deal with these days. So our foundation is now focusing on young children and young adults, and trying to come up with cures for things that they suffer with chronic depression, suicidal tendencies, anxiety, severe anxiety disorders. Just that's what our big goal is. And we may never, well, with some of our studies that we have funded, because we are now recognized as a very valid foundation. If we give a grant to a researcher, then they can apply to the National Institute of Mental Health and get a huge grant, because we've sort of vetted them. So now we can start the funding, and then they can get other funding to fund their research. And some of the projects that we have funded have really made a huge difference already in medications that have been discovered. And so we are really proud. And it's not always just a pill that you take. Sometimes it's brainwave therapy. Sometimes it's all kinds of different. Sometimes it's just talk therapy that you need. The first thing is you have to admit that you have it, and you have to be okay with saying that. It happened to my brother, and he was. I'm sure that if he did not get sick with this, he would have been a pro football player. He was one of the best athletes I ever saw in my entire life, and with football, and one of the greatest personalities, outgoing, just wonderful, and very, very gifted athletically. And it happened to him, and he had parents who could have done anything to have made him well, and there was no hospital in America that knew anything about it. So that's why we started this foundation. But yes, it can happen to anybody. It doesn't have to be a certain economic group or a certain race or a certain culture. It can happen to anybody at any time.
Tell us about annual mental health events held at the Angus Barn.
We have a walk for hope where people can. And there was 5,000 people this year. It's always the second Sunday in October, and you can sign up to be part of that and get a team and bring your team here. And it's now not just a walk; it's a walk and a festival. We have it here at the Angus Barn. It's huge, and 100% of the money that we raise that day goes directly to the cause, because everything that we receive to put on that day is donated. And so this year we crossed the $1 million mark for the first time for our Walk for Hope. It's called the Walk and Festival of Hope now, because not everybody wants to walk, so we have a festival. And there's something for everybody to do. And then we also have another event in September, which is called the Evening of Hope, which is a dinner that we have down at the pavilion. And that is a more exclusive, expensive, where you buy a table, $750 a seat. We have a speaker come in. For example, we had Robin Williams' son. We've had Brooke Shields. We've had Winona Judd. We've had Ashley Judd. We've had many, many speakers come in that have suffered with things, that are willing to share their experiences. Our biggest and most popular event is our Walk and Festival.
Could you share any advice or insights that would be beneficial for us?
Stay humble. Never think that you know it all, because you are a student. Every day you are learning. Every night when you go home from work, or every day you go home, sit down and think, what could I have done better? What did I do great? How can I do that better? If there's someone you need to apologize to, apologize. And apologize like you mean it, sincerely. Because apologizing is something we often forget we are able to do when we become adults. And just realize that you're never going to be perfect, but you're always going to strive to be better. And learn how to preview things before they come out of your mouth. Treat people like they're the most important person in the world when you're dealing with them. Trust me, I learned all this the hard way.
Why did you choose North Carolina?
You know, although I would tell you that one of my most favorite places in the entire world is Kenya, Africa, and I feel like my heart is there, and I feel like if there's a thing where you lived somewhere in another lifetime, I must have lived there, because I learned the language so quickly. I felt so at home there. But in spite of all of that, I have to say that I think of all the places that a person could live, North Carolina is just absolutely amazing, because it is big enough to where you can do anything that you want as far as entertainment, and it's also still has that beautiful countryside feel where you can still get the farms and the mountains and the ocean, and the people are nice. People here are just nice, and and if they're not nice, we try to teach them how to be nice. Like, yes, we have this weird weather and that kind of stuff, but I love the four seasons, and I love the mountains and the coast, and I love the woods and the trees. Where I live is just, I'm surrounded by woods and land, and I love that feeling, and I just can't imagine living in another place. I think this state is absolutely beautiful.